Miami is one of those interesting cities where talent is equally distributed, but opportunity is not. And so you have two high school students that came from Miami, Trayvon Martin, who most people didn't know was in a STEM program, and the founder of Amazon, two big transformational catalytic people and stories that came from the same city with different faiths.
The ultimate goal for Code Fever is how can we even the playing ground no matter what zip code you live in, and technology is going to do that. I've had a lot of doors slammed in my face. I've not been invited to the tables that I think sometimes that I should have been invited to, but I've also been trained on knocking down those doors and creating opportunities.
Turn right onto 14th Street.
My high school guidance counselor told me I'd never make it to college or get into a university because of my grades. Thank you. I quickly learned that, one, I wanted to prove her wrong. And then two, I didn't want someone that didn't know who I was trying to define what my life was going to be like at 17. I taught myself how to code and learn a lot about technology in the process, and that helped me win $130,000 in scholarships to go to college. For me, it's looking at my daughter and like her generation and wanting to kind of pave the way so it's a little bit easier for her, and every kid that looks like her and is her age and everyone in between. Code Fever Miami is an organization that my husband and I started here in Miami 4 years ago to address a major need. So as the innovation economy was starting to sprout up in Miami, it wasn't inclusive. Didn't include the Black community or the Caribbean community in any of the activity, the resources, the programming, or any of the spaces. And so we started Code Fever originally as a coding and startup school that quickly turned into not just training with hackathons and coding boot camps for the youth as well as their parents, but it also evolved into much more. Ecosystem building here in South Florida, making sure that the startup ecosystem was a true representation of all the people that exist here in Miami, and knowing that our young people, if we equip them with the right tools and then match them with the right resources, that we could help transform not just here in the United States, but globally.
For our coding curriculum, for our coding boot camps, it typically takes about 6 to 8 weeks. Through that boot camp, we'll expose students to everything from HTML and CSS to build basic websites. We teach them the basics of design, and we also teach them the basics of entrepreneurship, because we don't feel as though that the students should just get the coding aspect. We feel as though that if they understand and get these business skills, they could do a lot more.
Learning how to code can be extremely tedious. And so we introduce that to them in a really fun way. But when they can go from a whole line of code that seemed like a foreign language to them, and all of a sudden they see that line of code now turn into a photo, like all of a sudden it clicks to them.
I get to make games and code, which is two of my most favorite things. I made a game here, and it's about a guy who wakes up in a maze, and then he has to go through a lot of trials to save his friends and fight a lot of monsters. When I grow up, I want to be in the gaming business. It's fun, and I get to express myself through the things that we're making.
So you gotta write that stuff down. Instagram, you gotta tell me where you're gonna be posting and where you're gonna be posting there.
I personally found that I was in a lot of these tech spaces and that I didn't see a lot of people who looked like me. I wanted to be a part of Code Fever specifically because we care about taking people who are minorities and bringing them into this technology economy.
When we first started Code Fever, we were really focused on training. If a young person either wants to have a successful career in STEM or they successfully want to launch a technology or tech-enabled startup. And so they need mentors to be very close to them and within arm's reach. We said, if no other week in Miami, there's one week that we know that if you are serious about pursuing tech or advancing what you're doing, all the resources and all the people that can allow that to happen will be here in Miami during that week.
Ingram Park in the back of that building.
My high school basketball coach would always say, you're only as strong as your weakest player. For me, I'm really dedicated to raising up our weakest players in our community, and so that we can all create the city that we're proud of and that we want to live in, but that the opportunities are shared.
Thank you.